All right. So I found this quote through Neville Goddard's work, and it says here, there is no fiction in the true sense of the word, for when a state is imagined, it is created. Prayer is imagination drenched in feeling, a desire drenched in the feeling of the fulfillment objectifies itself. This is by Neville Goddard. He was a New Thought author, metaphysician, and mystic. My Jupiter and Pisces questions, they're a little out there and outrageous because Jupiter is outrageous. What I'm saying is Jupiter handing out boarding passes to some remote, otherworldly spiritual Disneyland during this transit? Is this a trippy Southwest submarines exploration into compassion and collective healing? Is this a sacrificial mushroom acid trip water slide into selflessness? And who are we serving anyway? Is this back-to-back blackout shots of whiskey in an esoteric cavern while blindfolded? And will the entire world play hooky to meditate at underwater music festivals or to pray for peace? So these are the dates for Jupiter and Pisces that are now, we're just sort of having Jupiter tip his big toe in this sign. And at 2 degrees, he's going to go retrograde and then head back into Aquarius. So from May 14th to July 28th, and then he's going to retrograde. Hold on, we'll let someone in. So Jupiter is going to retrograde back into Aquarius. And so for all the Aquarian, people, you still have a little bit more time with Jupiter sort of bringing social issues to the horizon through this Aquarian period as he dips back. And then on December 30th, 2021, he's going full force and he's cleaning out and going through the rest of this sign. So take note of where this axis, where Jupiter is going to be going back and forth between Pisces and Aquarius in your life and in your signs. So the quartz that came to my mind was aquamarine quartz. When I think about Jupiter in Pisces, and it's considered the treasure of mermaids and sailors. I call it mermaid jello shots when I see the stone. It's the stone of eternal youth and happiness. Some of these pieces are worth $11,000, especially this one. It's a pure piece from Pakistan. There are many different variants of aquamarine quartz, but I'm sure a high quality version of this is not something you'll find at one of the gem stores or even online for the low. So this transit also made me think of the Dr. Masaru Emoto's water experiment. This is a famous Japanese water experiment that he did. I think this was done in the, I want to say 80s or late 80s rather. But these are some of the water formations that came about after he played certain sound frequencies. This is Mozart's symphony. This is the word peace, played over and over on repetition. This is Imagine by John Lennon. This is Thank You. This is Love. This is I Will Kill You. This is Fuji Water before prayer, and this is after prayer. And what you'll notice in the formations of Thank You and Love, you'll see how similar the formations, the crystals are. Our bodies are comprised of more than 60% water, obviously. And so the sound, vibration, what we say, what we speak, we're really creating our reality, And so I think this is going to be one of those transits that break through the hydroponic healing, a lot of the hypnotherapy and stuff like that. There's going to be more of that on the rise. All right, if you're not familiar with prosperous thinking, I want to include this today as a collective healing. We've been doing this in the other group as far as prosperous thinking. And I just want to say, there is much power in the spoken word. Life and death are in the power of the tongue. So whether you believe them or not at first, if you begin to speak affirmations or mantras every day anyway, it makes a believer out of your subconscious mind, your emotional feeling nature. And when your subconscious feeling nature has absorbed these ideas, they go to work and come to pass. This is an affirmation I try to say every single day, and it's really helped me to dissolve any feelings of like resentment or heaviness so that I'm aware of or more open to ideas of good coming to me. And so I'm just going to read off of this card, and you can either read along with us or read it afterwards. It's up to you. All that has offended me, I forgive. Within and without, I forgive. Things past, things present, things future, I forgive. I forgive everything and everybody who can possibly need forgiveness of the past or present. I forgive positively everyone. I am free and they are free too. All things are cleared up between us now and forever. This is from Dr. Catherine ponders the dynamic laws of prosperity, forgiveness is a Piscean trait, right? Forgiveness, it's all about just pure, unconditional love. That's very Piscean. Wherever Jupiter is, Jupiter expands. Jupiter sort of, he's like the Santa Claus of the zodiac. So he brings more of this energy. So this is an opportunity to really heal through this transit. All right. While I was making these slides, another very cool testimonial claim came in from a client. So a client of mine who began doing daily suggested affirmations sent me this message on Tuesday night during her reading last month. I told her I saw her salary doubling very soon. In 30 days of daily affirmations and forgiveness, or rather subconscious mind reprogramming, she opened herself up to prosperity after 7+ years of zero career growth. She was passed up for promotions, but she was more than qualified. So she had to get down and do the inner work to see the outer results. She went from 55K to 100K plus. And this is in 30 days of just affirming that same, all that has offended me, I forgive over and over, just once in the morning, sometimes she'd do it at night, just because, even if she didn't believe it in the beginning, she did it anyway. And so this was the message she sent me. Um, People that do affirmations regularly or some form of mindful meditation, mantra, or prayer, they have reported quantum leaps or an advancement in their health, career, money, and overall just well-being. All right, let's get to the technical.
Well, hey, Zion, can I just chime in real quick?
Yeah, please.
I just was listening to one of the YouTube videos. I think it's the one that Deb shared, but the gentleman said in the video, like, whatever you intuitively believe or whatever you intuitively fear is going to grow. So that really resonated with me. And that's like a testament of that woman, and her success and her promotion.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing it. That's why this transit is so important, because if Pisces is the ocean, like, huge body of water, limitless, boundless, and Jupiter doesn't like boundaries. Jupiter has the opportunity to grow into something limitless for you. But if you have zero faith and zero belief, it can also do the inverse and swallow you up, And so it's important to expand your faith, or at least if you don't believe it in the beginning, just say, you know what? Things are working out, and I don't know how and I don't know why, but I'm just going to trust the process and allow. So allowing is really cool. So thank you for sharing that. Deb, before we get into the technical stuff, do you want to chime in on anything from your teacher, Ashuta Baba's video you mentioned?
Well, I would definitely second what Raymond just offered. I re-listened to the video again, and it's such a critical thing to think that Jupiter is really capable of manifesting in our lives what's inside to bring it out and what's outside to bring it in, as a way of a mode of really showing and putting on display just how powerful we are in the right kind of way, and life itself is. I'm really excited about this transit, because Jupiter is also known in Hellenistic astrology as the greater benefic, meaning that it's the planet that brings the good stuff. It brings, like your list says, luck, belief, grace, and it's really I think it's an opportunity. I look at it this way, to really kind of pay a little more attention and just be a little bit more aware of the things that are happening inside and out. And I guess, just like you're saying with the affirmations, just sort of work on those things, work on just being more aware of what goes on inside in relationship to the outside, to see things a little more relationally.
Yeah, I like that. Thank you. So Jupiter has it, and like Deb says, it's the greater benefic. So if you have a day chart, this is especially, good time for you if you're having a Jupiter return as well, because Jupiter is going to be your most benefic planet in your chart. If you have a night chart, then Venus is going to be your most benefic in terms of Hellenistic astrology. All right, so Jupiter has rulership in Pisces and Sagittarius, luck, fortune, abundance, expansion, belief, and grace. It's the urge to connect with something greater than yourself. Hold on, let me let someone in here. The urge to connecting greater than ourselves, Jupiter rules our aspirations, chance, generosity, hope, inflation, our belief systems. Philosophy, new horizons, it's magnanimous. Optimism, faith, openness to grace, desire for improvement and wisdom. In Vedic or Jyotish astrology, Jupiter is known as Guru. It's a planet of just great mass of wisdom through expanding your mind. That's why they say people you don't really know anything until you travel. So you've seen other cultures, you had mint tea in Morocco and or different places, and you really experience life from a foreign lens. That's why Jupiter to me is considered guru. So Jupiter is the gas giant, making mountains out of molehills since 1610, when it was discovered by Galileo Galilei. Some of the lower and negative qualities of Jupiter, because every planet has its shadow side, would be wasteful, provocative, excessive, overlooking details, overconfidence, laziness, overextending the self, and hypocritical. And so, in as much as we want to amplify some of the positive things that are going to come through this transit, we also need to be mindful of some of the negative qualities, especially if that Pisces house is stressed or there are some challenging aspects to it. All right, so Piscean themes are going to be, this is a mutable water sign. Mutable signs are adaptable and changing in nature, right? And so I kind of like when Jupiter's going through the mutable signs. Um, Positive associations to Pisces are empathy, art, music, spirituality, imaginative, healing, devoted, receptive, psychic, gentle, intuitive, kind, inspiration, mysticism, sympathetic, unconditional love, soulful, universalism, the belief that humankind will eventually be saved or everyone goes to heaven, some kind of heaven, no matter what they did. The negative associations to Pisces are escapists, such as addictions to anything, really, even work, unreliable, oversensitive, confused, elusive, illusion, vulnerable, nebulous, slippery, muddle-headed, moody, deceptive, vague, easily influenced, martyrdom, sacrificing. Places that Pisces rules, and maybe Deb, you can add to this, I don't know, hospitals, prisons, asylums, repressed parts of ourself, ashrams, and isolation. Are there any other places in, generally that you think of for Pisces?
Um, no, I think it's a pretty good list. But one thought occurs to me is that I don't know what that you have planned here, but I also, like somebody in the chat mentioned, I have Jupiter in my natal chart in the 12th house, and a lot of these negative things are definitely lessons that I'm still learning and have had to come to terms with. So I guess depending on your house placement and stuff, all of us may be more or less prone to some of these associations.
Mm-hmm. Cool, cool. All right, so this is a general list of what there's going to be a flood of. I have 3 different lists here, and the first thing that came to me was mainstream mysticism, right? The TikTok shamans, Instagram mystics, spirituality in film, clubhouse mediums, altars and rituals on film sets. Literally, this is actually something that happened to a client of mine who's working on a film. They built an altar as they're in the production stages. Um, Film astrologers calling shots and advising producers and cast. This is also something that's happening. Spiritual wellness in movies and television, and spiritual sci-fi adaptations. I thought about Octavia Butler's Wild Seed, also Children of Blood and Bone. Some of those sci-fi books, even Sister Soldier, like some of the older, like even African American based sci-fi books I'm thinking about, there will possibly be some film adaptations to some of these books moving forward. Heightened escapism. So psychic sensitivity to what the collective is feeling. We're all just going to be feeling it even more so. I had a client the other day at one of my monthlies, and he's like, I was watching a graduation ceremony on Zoom, and I just started crying. And it wasn't even someone I knew. I just felt like I needed to cry in that moment. And I thought about the ingress of Jupiter and Pisces as he was talking, because he's very Virgo. He doesn't have much, water in his chart. So rapid legislation changes surrounding cannabis and psychedelics, alcoholism and painkillers. In 2010, during the last Jupiter and Pisces, one of my childhood friends reconnected with me on Facebook, and she lives out in Florida. She had just had all her teeth removed and replaced with implants due to years of abusing oxycodone. She was also really super spoiled. by her parents. They bought her a house right out of high school, and so I think that kind of contributed to her not really having the push or the urge to do a whole lot. Overindulging in anything to drown out and avoid life. Lots of overdoses, lots of drug use and circulation of drugs. A great time for street pharmacists and liquor sales. Um, so like I know LMVH, I think is the stock ticker for Louis Vuitton, who controls the Hennessy and all that stuff. I guarantee those sales are going to spike through this Jupiter transit. Psychedelic drugs, rapid legislation changes surrounding cannabis and psychedelics are happening. Psychedelic therapy, experimental depression and PTSD medications, pharmaceutical investments in expanding FDA limitations and removing certain restrictions. Ayahuasca retreats are going to be huge, especially as the world opens back up. 2020, something like the salt bath and synthetic weed trend might emerge again, where there's some type of drug that's like, taking some of these kids out, or they're doing the most. More sensitivity to drugs and bad trips or reactions, even to basic over-the-counter drugs like Benadryl and NyQuil. People will not read labels. They'll be forgetful. They'll forget how much they've taken. So there may be an influx of poison control hotline calls, more allergic reactions. If you work in the restaurant world, you may see more medical emergencies, Raina. More use of EpiPens for people who have, allergies and things like that, or different severe allergy issues.
I just want to chime in and say that the ambulance has been at my restaurant 3 times in the last 4 days.
Yep, and it's only going to get worse. So there's going to be also a whole lot of more music and art. So it's going to be groundbreaking, overdue albums will be released by artists. The first artist that came to my mind was Rihanna. Maybe she'll release a visual album to go along with her Fenty line or something during this transit. She also is a Pisces, so this is going to be transiting her sun. And I thought of what's the guy, Bob Dylan too, Deborah, your guy, and maybe he will release a single. You don't know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised by that. Or possibly he wrote an autobiography and he called it Chronicles 1, implying that there's going to be a 2. And I'm thinking that with COVID, maybe he'll get around to putting out 2.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Can I just tell y'all about my week?
Yeah, sure, please.
I'll just tell you a story about this. This is Angela.
Hey.
I'll just tell you about yesterday. So yesterday I went for this like root canal that my dentist has been putting off for one reason or another. It's like there's too much abscess. You can even hear in my mouth that it sounds weird right now. So there's too much abscess, so she couldn't do it or whatever. I went in yesterday with no pain. I called them 2 weeks before, like, hey, why don't you prescribe me some antibiotics so that we can get this thing done? Because they've canceled for COVID reasons and all this other stuff. I mean, seriously, this is like a 4-month process. So yesterday I go in with no pain. Then they're working on it. She's like, oh, I found some. She starts to flush it with just saline. I have a reaction to that. I could feel like fire going through my veins. Ooh. So now they've like prescribed me all these narcotics and antibiotics and all these things. I'm like, why? And while she's working in my mouth and like trying to push in medicine into the root canal that she's not going to fix yet again, the power goes out. So it was like all these things happened to me. I was like, oh, hell no. And I had to start a medicine journal because I have so much medicine I have to take right now. I was like, thank you, Jupiter and Pisces, for this nothing.
Yeah, that sucks. But also the power going out makes me think of the pre-shadow of Mercury retrograde. So wow, yeah, you're getting a double dose there of inconvenience. So,
yeah, remember I said that, Angela, that how the power's been going out everywhere I've been going. Everywhere I've been in the last 5 days, the power's been out. It's crazy. I was at the airport, the power went out. I was at the rental car place, the power went out. Then Angela, the power went out at the dentist's office. Then somebody called me and they told me their power went out in the grocery store. I was like, wow, the Mercury retrograde.
Yep, that's definitely it. So, well, Angela, wish you a speedy recovery, especially with Jupiter transiting your 12th house. Don't worry, Jupiter in the 12th is like a little guardian angel. So it's always an 11th hour demonstration where something just comes through. And this might be the universe telling you to slow down and rest. So there's going to be crowded music festivals. That's already, people are in cages, or they were before the vaccinations and all that. They were in cages going to festivals, and there's going to be a huge influx of that. I'm sure J. Cole's going to be having his sound fest here that he does in the Raleigh area and all types of stuff. There's going to be more sound healing, subliminal audio, fuego healing frequencies. That's been what's like popping up everywhere for me in my life and a lot of people I know. These are going to become widely popular again. Music therapy. I have a client who she is a social worker in Canada, and she hated social work, and she has a master's in classical piano, but she didn't make it into the conservatorium like 10 years ago or whatever, actually 12 when Jupiter was last in Pisces. And so she decided she wasn't going to do music. Well, she just now found a way to do music therapy and incorporate her social work degree with her master's in, classical piano. And so all is well now in her world. There's going to be people quitting their day jobs to pursue art, music, and film. Creative dance and poetry is going to be on the rise. Breakthroughs in gaming and digital media. The guy who I think he's from Ghana. He created Nipsey Hussle's digital thing for his store, the coding. He has come up with some really cool things where there's a hologram that pops out of the screen as you walk. Really cool stuff that he's doing, and hands-free, sort of where you clap, and then instead of touching the screen or touching the device, you sort of move your hand in the air. He's doing a whole lot of coding around that. Disneyland and Disney World trips, the most magical place on earth. If you own shares in Disney, these stocks will probably likely rise during this transit. I know that even Mark, my stepson here, he's going to, is it Disney World, Raina, in September or something?
Yeah, he's going to Disneyland. Wait, Disney World. No, Disney World.
Disney World in Florida, right? So you're going to see a lot more people just wanting to go to the most magical place on earth, especially after dealing with these toddlers in the house during COVID. They're ready for vacations. And we're in a 5 universal year, so Disney's going to be making some good money. Edgar Cayce healing references are going to be on the rise. Edgar Cayce has a healing center, or there is a dedicated, rather, healing center to him in Virginia Beach, Virginia. If you're ever in the Virginia Beach area, you should go check it out. He was a psychic medium who would go into trance states, and then he would give readings from that space. Neville Goddard, Wayne Dyer, Bob Proctor, and all the New Thought, Law of Attraction teachings, The Secret, all that stuff is going to be on the rise, of course. People leaving and entering new faiths, especially uncertainty about returning to churches. When I wrote this, the first thing that came to my mind was the Pope with a water gun doing a baptism during COVID. So people are going to kind of be like, do I really want to return? And that's going to be on the forefront. Metaphysics in universities. I've already seen that. I know in Sedona, Arizona, they have a huge metaphysical chair at their university there. They even go to doctorate level. There's going to be connecting to higher power, real miracles, hypnotherapy, opportunity to really process our feelings. And you got to feel it to heal it. Deb sent me a really cool video today about these. I think it's 3 Pisces ladies. One of them was Kelly Surtees, and they were talking about this transit. And I think one of the astrologers mentioned that they visited a hypnotherapist or something that said they wouldn't see anyone who was taking antidepressant drugs because they wanted you to really feel the healing, and you have to get to the core of what you're feeling. And those antidepressants sort of block or restrict your ability to feel a lot of times. There's going to be more. Deb, did I get that right? Is that?
Yeah, that was the gist of it. Yes.
Cool. Compassion and forgiveness. This is big. I think this is probably the greatest part of this transit is we're going to be healing as a collective, especially after 2020 and 2021, all the deaths and everything. People are still sort of in shock that, and a lot of people haven't even cleaned out grandma's house yet or done things to sort of grieve or process what has happened. Support for organizations like PETA and the Real Tarzan, more Peace Corps volunteers, Free Palestine and other humanitarian initiatives, charity and generosity, selfless giving, funding for new hospitals and medical research and biotech, reconciliation of estranged nations, family, and people. There's going to be clean water initiatives, like for example, Flint, Michigan. No one has thought about years later the tens of thousands of children that have severe to mild autism as a result of the lead pipes in Flint, and how these people are going to be dependent, adults and preteens and all that. What is that system going to look like? I imagine someone like, what is Will Smith's son's name? Jaden Smith, who set up some water filtration system there. People like that are going to be pouring in more money to help with like the post-Flint crisis. And there's just going to be a fluctuation of acceptance all around, just accepting people as they are, where they stand, seeing this whole thing as a garment and nothing else. There's going to be an excess of confusion too, right? Confusion about currency and the value of the dollar, housing and real estate market inflation. Because if you look at the chart of the United States, um, I'm talking about the Sagittarius rising chart of the American Declaration. This transit falls in the fourth house. And so it's going to cause some murky muddiness and inflation in the market, which we're already kind of seeing. There's going to be mutated strands and maybe hard to diagnose misinformation about, this virus. And people are going to say things like, I just don't have words, but here are some symbols. I had a client earlier who she's like, I don't have really words to say. So I just kind of draw things. And when I draw them, I say this symbol means this. And that's how she creates vision boards, or she creates, different sort of prompts for herself. Instead of making a list, she just draws. Water and nuclear and hydrogen power. The use of nuclear arms can also be traced past Jupiter and Aquarius Jupiter and Aquarius and Pisces phases. In 1938, Albert Einstein of Pisces penned a letter to US President Franklin Roosevelt and Aquarius explaining how the power of fission chain reactions utilizing uranium could be used to construct extremely powerful bombs. There's going to be investments in water-based ETFs and mutual funds. Similarly, oils, plastics, and pharmaceuticals. Now, legally, because of the group that we're working with today, I can say this is not investment advice. However, why don't you just make a little fake portfolio where you can track the symbols and see how these symbols sort of rise in the stock market. Enabling victimhood and saviorhood is going to be on the rise. There will be an overflowing of empathy. So romanticism and whimsical fairy tale undying love stories. People might get tattoos on the first date thinking that they're madly in love because of the confusion, the fantasy world of Pisces. Those who have been used and abused will be karmically cashing in during this transit. All right, this is really interesting. This is actually happening right now. So this legislation in New York City would establish the Office of Cannabis Management and expand New York's existing medical marijuana program, establishing a licensing system, and create a social and economic equity program, encouraging individuals disproportionately impacted by cannabis enforcement to participate in this industry. The tax collected is projected to reach $350 million annually and potentially create 30,000 to 60,000 jobs. So my friend in New York, he was actually visiting his family in Buffalo, and his uncle, who was incarcerated for 7 years, he did 7 out of 10 years, was released. His record was expunged, and the DA is actually helping him to start a cannabis business in the upstate New York area. And so basically this said to me, sorry we imprisoned these people for 10 plus years on felony marijuana charges. Sorry about the people who died in prison while serving sentencing. Sorry we over-police low-income neighborhoods, Black neighborhoods, and Latino neighborhoods, but we want to make it right. We'll expunge your records and set you up with grants to grow and distribute cannabis legally. To me, this is the irony of Piscean sort of muddled energy, and Jupiter is trying to, make it right, in essence, sort of give people back their time, but you can never really replace time lost for something that, a lot of politicians smoke weed and all that. So I just thought that was fascinating. In history, in July 1974, President Nixon was impeached during Jupiter and Pisces. In 1974, also, we had the first MRI. On February 9th, 1974, the New York Times reported in its Patents of the Week column that Dr. Raymond V. Damadian, a physician and biophysicist at Downstate Medical Youth Center in Brooklyn, had patented a method for distinguishing normal from cancerous tissue by what was then called nuclear magnetic resonance. And I don't think he actually released it before the other patents came out, but this was when the first reported patent came out. Also in 1974, Isabel Martinez de Perón was the wife of President Juan Perón in Argentina, served as the first female president in the world after her husband's death. She was not elected. So when you Google first female president, she won't come up. You actually have to look this up. But following her husband's death in office in 1974, Isabel served as president of Argentina from July 1st to March 24th, 1976, at which time the military took over the government and placed her under house arrest for 5 years before exiling her to Spain in 1981. She holds the distinction of having been the first woman to have held the title of president of a nation as opposed to a queen or prime minister. Now that whole being exiled and being held in house arrest, that is very Piscean in nature. And so for her to have this sort of thing befall her during this Pisces season would really make me interested in looking at her chart from a Hellenistic standpoint. All right. Okay, I was just looking at the chat window here. Maria, you're asking about what does it mean, use and abuse cashing in? Meaning people that were, if cannabis is being legalized everywhere, and people that were incarcerated for weed, for cannabis, for large quantities of it or whatever, are now being released and their records are being cleared, and the government is funding them to have cannabis businesses now to make up for the time they spent incarcerated. So I hope that makes it clear. I don't know. But that's very Jupiter in Pisces as far as Steve. And Maria, does that make sense to you?
I guess I should take myself off mute.
Oh.
It was on the slide before that.
Yeah, this one, right?
No, one before that. Down in the right.
Oh, those that have been used and abused will be karmically cashing in. Yeah, so if you think about the 12th house of our own self-sabotage or hidden enemies, Jupiter is bringing a sort of a sweetness, a little bit of like relief or reprieve for those, that Piscean energy that has been, and depending on where it falls in your chart, we'll see. But for those that have felt like, you know, they can't get ahead, you know, there's a little bit of victimhood sometimes that falls under the sign of Pisces. And so Jupiter is sort of bringing a little bit of saving grace to that sign in general.
Yeah, I'm totally getting it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
People are going to be getting payouts, you know, lots of where they've been, you know, I think Raina used to follow this tarot lady who used to say something like, karmically noted. What was it, Raina? Duly noted or something?
Yeah, I actually got a reading from her. I don't know if she's even on YouTube anymore. Angela used to follow her, but yeah, she said to me that like what has happened to you has been karmically noted, and you will find that, you know, the person that has, you know, been in bad relation with you will start to get what they deserve, in the sense, you know, be oppressed like they oppressed you. So that's kind of what happened exactly to the
Yeah.
T, because now I don't have any issues with that person at all. And they were a huge part of my negative experience for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And they've got their own issues now. And so realistically, universally rather, you don't really have to do anything. The universe will take care of it. This is a warning for Jupiter and Pisces. Yeah, Lisa Divinity, that's right. So the warning is, as much as we want to help others, we need to be sure that other people are responsible for themselves. Don't get caught up in martyrdom. Help people to help themselves. Give them the tools, prosperous thinking tools. Give them the books, give them the resources. Don't be so quick to open your wallet and deplete yourself and them. Some gurus may be helpful, but be careful of guru worship. The Pope and a dog catcher have the same indwelling God as you. No prayers can reach faster to source than your own. Be mindful of blindly trusting and putting faith in things. So lean a little bit into the Virgo polarity a little bit. Virgo is analytical and reasoning. Virgo is probably the most atheist sign in the zodiac. And so you want to balance a little bit of that over the top Pisces with some of the polarity. This energy is anti-hustle and anti-ambition. So if you feel like you used to be a hustler, go-getter, and you just suddenly like chilling, you can't find the drive in you to do certain things, surrender, allow, so that you can receive. The universe is probably trying to open a door somewhere. Don't give and give until you become a martyr or victim. We said that. Prioritize and discern. So call on divine love and wisdom to be led into that which is for your highest good. Be careful of engaging in lies, hypochondria, and loneliness. Those are some of the other Piscean lower negative qualities. Differentiate between being alone without being lonely. All right, if you are a Pisces rising, before we start this going in through the signs here, Deb, do you want to add anything to what I said about what there will be an influx of or what to be careful of?
Um, no, I think you pretty much covered. I would just go back to, again, that whole inside outside thing. I think that's a pretty crucial thing to watch out for. Meaning that, sometimes something that's seemingly good could end up being bad, or not what you thought, and the other way around. Something that seems like a disaster might end up being a blessing. That sort of mix back and forth.
You won't really know. So Pisces rising, lucky you, happening in your first house of personality, vitality, and appearance, incorporating an outlook of optimism, hope, and faith. Be careful of overindulgence. Remember, when you have a growth mindset, when you're optimistic, when you're actively pursuing opportunities, you're much more likely to make progress in your life. Throw the dice and put yourself out there to win. You can have more heart and soul connections because this is hitting the axis of the first and the seventh house. With Neptune also here, you can have laser insight into something that is not obvious, and if you do it, it might bring you good luck. Feelings of serendipity or floating into bigger opportunities or bigger confusion. All right, so for Aquarius rising, this is happening in your second house of money, finances, and self-worth. Resources are growing and changing, energetically changing your relationship to money, being more receptive to what you didn't have the awareness of before. You can go from poverty consciousness to wealth and prosperity consciousness. You might find yourself holding on to more money, especially with Saturn transiting your sign. This can help you hold on to the second house influx of resources that Jupiter will bring. There can be an overhaul in your values. You might start hoarding or accumulating things based on sentimentality. So an example, a relative passed away, and you find yourself with their possessions and having trouble getting rid of things. Capricorn rising. This is happening in your third house of communication, everyday interactions, learning, and siblings and neighbors and cousins, right? You could be mentally lighter and optimistic in your outlook. Capricorn rising in general tends to size everything up for its purposefulness. Like, what's the use of that? Or what's the purpose for that? And they can be kind of grim about responsibility, like, or taking on or shouldering more responsibility just for the sake of it to show or prove that they've done it. This is an opportunity to try not to create a 10-year plan in your mind and just trust that the pieces are falling in place. You can heal damaged relationships with siblings, short trips, and discovering new local gems. You might travel a whole lot during this period. Siblings can get married and have more kids. You have the gift of gab during this period because it's the third house of mind, the way you speak, and just your colloquial, local, interactions. You might get a new vehicle, maybe a nice one too. Maybe you always wanted that Audi or whatever. Solutions to old vehicle problems. And you don't have to save your siblings, cousins, or neighbors. This is a time to give them the tools to save themselves by leaving well enough alone. Enabling others will cause resentfulness when you stop giving. The recipient will make you the enemy of your own giving when the supply is halted. It's just human nature. If you're going to give, then give joyously and freely, releasing all attachment to whatever it is you're giving. Give a kind thought, and it will multiply exceedingly in your experience. All right. Sagittarius rising. This is happening in your fourth house of home and family. There could be healing, family karma and issues, planning pregnancies, expanding your family, purchasing and selling homes, buying land, the bigger picture of what family means. Your mother might be the focus. You may be or need to be more compassionate towards her. Possibly flooding in the home due to the square to Neptune and all that, Jupiter. Or something regarding home repairs. Jupiter will help you to solve whatever problem there is in the home, solving issues with landlords and leasing companies. People can leave your home, you can leave the home, and it's a great opportunity to let go of negative childhood habits. Scorpio rising. This is happening in your fifth house of children, creativity, play, and romance. Putting faith in romance and fun, enjoying and indulging in life's pleasures, games of chance. You could feel a lot lucky. Again, I emphasize the word feel, and I guess you got to feel it to win it, right? You can benefit through your children. Authentic artistic self. A project may come up where you may get to be your true self without apology, where you used to, you can be weird or eccentric or however you want to be through that project. There could be a new love. Suddenly you get hits on the dating apps or someone comes on the horizon. Deb, I know that you're a musician. I think you have a Scorpio rising. What are you looking forward to during this transit?
Yeah, I love this transit in the fifth house, to be honest. And it's funny too, because long before the transit, all of a sudden I just got this bug to go back to my guitar playing. I'm recently retired and put more energy into just really, really learning things, proper mechanics, and I'm just enjoying the heck out of it. And on the love note, I mean, I've been divorced for 2 years now, and it's funny, all of a sudden I just sort of feel like I'm ready. So I don't know what will happen, but I have a good feeling about it. And I have a good feeling about a lot of things. Like I said, this transit just seems to be coinciding with a lot of good positive changes in my life.
Awesome. Thank you. Hi, Caspian. I'm just seeing you. Thanks for joining us. And where is your Pisces house, Caspian?
My Pisces house is in the 8th house, but I also have a Pisces North Node.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So for Libra rising people, this is happening in your 6th house of work, health, routines, and acts of service. Work with deeper meaning, charitable work you believe in, health revelations and healers can come out of the blue. Sacrificing work. You might have a lazier coworker becomes even lazier, and you're taking on extra workloads and longer hours. And Virgo, the 6th house of Virgo kind of likes that energy of more work anyway, or to feel useful and helpful. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Expanding your health routine, adding more pets to the home, or caring for more pets. A pet might help you recover and tap into more self-compassion for yourself and others. In medical astrology, Jupiter causes growths, swelling, and water retention. So watch your health. Guard your health here, this transit. All right, Virgo rising. This is happening in your 7th house of partnership. Opportunities for your partner, benefiting through your partner, deeper connection in relationships, being inspired by your partner, feeling more hopeful about partnership and contracts. There could be a blow up in your relationship because Jupiter blows things up, but it's going to be for the better, right? Expanding your business partnerships. Partners can bring money into the business, expansion of clients, and you got to believe good things can happen. So there's a chance to drown out your reasoning, practical Virgo mind. In order for magic to happen, you've got to have some kind of belief, Virgo. Leo rising. This is happening in your 8th house. And this is the house of transformation, the occult, joint finances, and other people's money. This is about debt resolution, deep soul work and forgiveness, charitable acts through joint resources, tax refunds, benefits through insurance agencies, healing through therapy and counseling. You can get approved for a loan that you didn't think you'd get by grace of luck, by the grace of Jupiter. Examining your psychological beliefs. It could be a good time to sign up for insurance policies. As the 8th house rules the occult, if you are drawn to any sort of like psychic work or even learning tarot or different things like that, this is a good time for that as well. All right, Cancer rising. This is happening in your 9th house of faith, foreign affairs, learning, teaching, travel, publishing, and law. So mentors and gurus are going to come up. Opportunities for dreamy getaways. You might go back to school. You could learn astrology. You can go beyond Western astrology and learn Jyotish or Krishnamurti. You could learn Hellenistic astrology or even tap into some evolutionary stuff. There's favorable court dealings or court rulings, especially as the 9th house. This is second from the 8th. So this is about shared resources. So there could be favorable outcomes around things that you've been trudging through in court and all that. Joining churches, leaving churches. You might finally publish that book of yours or dissertation. I look at the 3rd and the 9th house as far as like publication. So maybe in the 3rd house, you might do an ebook. I mean, it just depends on the type of publication or how large or whatever it is. Lucky breaks to travel, especially after Jupiter returns back to Pisces in December 2021. Scholarships and enrollment in programs is going to be on the rise, and lots of opportunity to get free money for school. Gemini rising. This is happening in your 10th house of career, status, and limelight. It could be opportunities for growth in your career, imaginative career goals, thinking bigger, what you want to do, maybe gaining more traction in your career. The North Node is transiting your first house too. So remain flexible. If you're confused about your career, this confusion or frustration can bring you to a new career path. Like Deb has been saying, as within, so without, like, so it might not be what you think or what it looks like. Look at everything, change the lens a little bit to adjust your thinking. Ask people around you trust, especially some of the earth sign folks, right? To help you get practical or see what you may not be able to see. Taurus rising. This is happening in your 11th house of friends, networks, and hope. Connection with allies and those who socially show compassion and uplift you. You could have more artsy, musical, and psychic friends and people who appear out of nowhere. It could be involvement in groups that serve 12th house matters. For example, sea turtle or other wildlife rescues, clean water initiatives, animal sanctuaries, shelters, prison release programs. Your wishes can really come true in this time. Take time to define what your hopes and wishes are. If you haven't clearly defined it, then you're just sort of crapshooting whatever the universe is bringing you, and you're susceptible to the world mind. Friends and groups can become very lucky and save the day for you. Aries rising, last but not least, this is happening in your 12th house of unconscious, magic, isolation, and self-undoing. Jupiter transiting this house acts as a guardian angel. So there's an opportunity to become more aware of what is most self-destructive within you. It's excellent for healing from grief and addictions. Try dream journaling. Your dreams may be more psychic in nature. I know for some of us who like maybe wake up in the middle of the night, drinking water in that period can help with the lucid or clear dreaming too. I know for me, I don't know personally for other people. There could be a chance to take some needed rest and unplug from the world. You may work behind the scenes and have more compassion for people with addictions. Your own secrets could come out, or a secret comes to light that benefits you in some way. All right. Jupiter return. So if you're having a Jupiter return, I just want to throw a quick advertisement in there. This is going to be, it happens at the age of 12. And this is when your natal interests sort of emerge with more enthusiasm. It's like watching a 12-year-old figure out what they love or what they like. It's really fascinating. I offer 1 hour reading for parents, which covers from birth to the first Jupiter return. You can schedule that at thirdeyeseye.com. So if your natal Jupiter is in Pisces, this return will feel like a reminder of the big dream in whichever house it occupies. People will show up to help you like human angels. Put yourself out there so connections can be made. Jupiter's return brings you back to a sense of meaning and being supported by the universe in a mysterious way. When you align what you're meant to be doing, magic happens. Invest time and resources into making your dreams happen. You've always wanted to write that book. Start recording your ideas, send it to someone on Fiverr to transcribe it for you, and make your own time. Make a Jupiter return vision board. Check the ephemeris for the exact date that Jupiter returns to your natal Jupiter. So I think that covers, as far as what you can expect Jupiter return. If you don't have a LinkedIn page, make a LinkedIn, because somehow, some way, people are going to find you, and it's just going to, it can be really beneficial. During my last Jupiter return in 2010, I had just gotten married. We got a rent-to-own house, so basically ownership of our first home, but not really, I guess. It was a beautiful time. I got promoted at my job, was making a lot of money. So this is one of those transits that, especially if you have a Sag rising or Pisces rising, it's something really good for you, to look forward to. All right, Jupiter retrograde. Now, this is when we're having this in July. It's going to dip back and slowly turn around, go back into Aquarius for a little bit, bring some more of those social issues to the rise so that everyone can have compassion. So there can be delays in traction. This reminds me of rubbing your feet on the carpet to create a bigger conductive energy. Once Jupiter goes direct again, prepare the dream, trust divine timing. The static will create quantum leaps. The bigger the static, the bigger it'll be. Train yourself in the middle of irritation to say, something really good is coming from this. Everything is working out. I don't know how, but I know something's working out. And just begin to feel that energy more. If your natal Jupiter is in Pisces, this should be on the last slide. Sorry about that. This will Never mind. Disregard. Duplicate slide. So, anyone have anything they want to say or add to Jupiter retrograde, Jupiter return, or just Jupiter transiting Pisces at all? What are y'all looking forward to? Or what'd you grab from this?
I'm really excited about all of it, honestly. I've always been a fan of, I don't know, like, I don't know how you say, I've always been a fan of Pisces. Like, I don't have really anything in my Pisces, except for it's my 12th house. So whenever she comes around, I'm like, hey girl, whenever she's doing something special in the sky, I feel like, and Jupiter is like everyone's favorite. So I'm really excited. I've already had a lot of very Piscean things happen to me. Also, I feel like in the last 2 months, I've had a lot of like psychic dreams. Like, I don't know what it's for until it's like, oh, that happened.
Yeah.
Like, if that makes any sense. So just like the whole thing is like, so like, I don't know, Pisces were dreamy to me. Like, I'm just super excited for this lollygagging and relaxation that's happening in these next couple of months.
Yeah, just allow and trust. Don't force it. I love Abraham Hicks, how they say procrastination is the wisdom. So if you don't feel the drive to do something at that moment, just trust the process that when you do feel the drive, it's going to take hours off of your time to do it when you feel good about doing it. That's one thing about Pisces that I kind of like about them. It appears lazy sometimes, but in reality, they're just kind of feeling their way, catching the vibe, catching the wave.
So,
Awesome.
so I kind of have a question I'm trying to piece together. So my Jupiter's in my Pisces in the 7th house. So I guess I'm having a return this year or next year. And Virgo rising, yeah. So I had gotten married back in 2010, and it turned out to be a very toxic, abusive situation, which I'm grateful for because it led to a very big awakening in life.
Mhm.
And I'm just trying to figure out, like, does that mean a relationship re-enters? Does that mean, I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out.
Well, Pisces is healing, right? And so the fact that you said it ended up being a period of growth and gain overall for you, I'm imagining whatever is happening through your divorce or whatever you might have gained a little bit from that. So look to more of the feeling of wisdom that Jupiter has brought to you as you allow or invite new partnership in versus, yeah, something's coming. Because the old you, let's say 12 years ago or 2010, you might have accepted things that you knew were wrong for you or not good for you. Hence, you might have gotten into that marriage maybe in without the consciousness you have now. So that's how I would look at it. And again, be open to the idea of someone actually being like good for you.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that because I feel like I don't know what's happened in the past 3 months, but a lot of things that caused a lot of financial hardship from that situation. I'm like getting handed things left and right from like networking acquaintances. They're like, "Oh, I'll help you out with that. I'll fix that." And I'm like,
Mhm.
"What? Like, you've known I've been dealing with this for 3 years. Now all of a sudden you want to do it? You don't want to charge me?" I'm like, "What's going on?"
Yeah. Isn't that the energy of Pisces though? It's like that blind, it can see when it wants to see. I noticed that with Piscean energy. So I'm, not surprised that you're cashing in a little bit and people around you are seeing your distress call. Whereas before they couldn't even recognize the distress call.
It's wild, and I'm so grateful for it. So thank you for hosting this.
You're welcome. I would start affirming, I am receiving now. I am receiving all the blessings that the universe has for me now.
I will do that.
Cool. Anyone else, Pisces in the house, want to add to that? Thank you, Angela, for telling us about your 12th house things and what you're looking forward to. Cool. All right. Well, we're gonna end here. If you all don't have anything, have fun, folks. Dream, create. If you're having a return, make a Jupiter return vision board. As Jupiter dips back into Aquarius, just the slow pace of energy where you've been seeing this, feeling excited about it, just allow and get ready for it coming back in December.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
Yes, thanks,
you all.
thanks everyone.
Thank
Thanks
you.
everyone. Have a good night.
You
Thanks.
too.
For sharing your stories, and blessings to you all.
Blessings,
Thank you,
Kathleen.
you too.
Zion, can I make a return to Aquarius vision board when it goes back in July?
I mean, you can, honestly, you should make a board of at whatever house. I think that's what your 11th house, right?
Yeah.
So hopes, wishes, networking. You can do something visually for Aquarius, for Jupiter and Aquarius now, sort of like an ode to that energy and of gratitude. I would say like a Jupiter and Aquarius gratitude board would be really cool. But yeah, it's a lot of fun to just play around with those things, because the fact that you felt drawn to do it, there you could be onto something,
That sounds really fun. I'm really excited.
Oh, cool. Caspian, you said you're thinking of trying plant helpers for the first. Yeah, that's very totally Pisces. During this period, I want to go to all the animal sanctuaries. I'm dragging Raina to all the horses, wherever I can see the animals. I want to go. So Deb,
I'll go with you.
thank you. So Deb, tomorrow, Gemini Moon, right? We're gonna do a chat. I think around say 6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think 6 would be what work for me. So I'll send you a message on Meetup.
All right. Yeah, that sounds good. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Thanks, y'all. Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Have a good night.